Hi, Dan Paulson here. Had a recent conversation with a buddy of mine that was asking me about some recommendations from some lost scripture kind of material, just getting into some other things. It had been recommended to him to read the, hang on a second here, the letter of Barnabas. It is the letter of Barnabas. And so I started looking through it, and the Shepherd of Hermas is another good one. But I wanted to kind of go through them a little bit because I don't have a lot of familiarity with them. I've read them previously, but I haven't studied them. So because of his question, I went back and looked at it, and I thought this would be a good idea or a good time to just kind of show how I go through stuff and kind of try to determine the viability of it. There is a template that is being transmitted around in all of the stories. However, the stories that carry the template are quite various. They are mythology or religions. Sometimes the religious ones take on a life of their own as a box, as a carrier shell. People don't know that the template is in there. They believe that the story itself, the carrier shell, is true and real. And they focus intently on trying to explain how that is real. And the stories back then can be that way. You will find very, very wonderful pieces of work with that nested lesson in there. Then you will find other pieces of work that sound like they're of the religious genre that you just read previously, except that none of that nested lesson is in there. So in those cases, what I'm thinking to myself is that somebody who likes making stories, that's what they're doing back then, that they liked the religion and they created a story bolstering the religion, never realizing that the religion was a carrying case to begin with. I want to be very clear about something. If you are reading anything in Christianity or from Christianity today and modernity, things that have been written by Christians who are explaining the religion, or if you go so far as to grab the Book of Mormon, that template is not there. People later on are just grabbing onto the religion saying, oh, this religion is true, and they're trying their best to try and recreate it or to explain it. And this is layer 2. This is not understanding that the verse is played out in the psyche. This is people thinking that it is about the physical world and they're trying to explain it as something in the physical world, despite the fact that we've been told to make it about the spiritual world and not the physical world. All right, what I want to suggest is that all of these fit the category of what is called living verse, but think about that. Verse, living verse. Not after you die verse, living verse. All of them fit that category, and they're going to interpret out and be something in the psyche that's a part of the self-healing process. It's going to explain how we came about and what our issue is, and when we're looking for having control of our life condition, this is how we see that. I've said before, and this is very quite literal. If you took a fable, Aesop's fable, and you read books on what kind of hare, what kind of tortoise, what could have been, what was their faith, all of that, what you realize is that somebody is not getting the nested lesson. That's what's happening here. There's a nested lesson, and when people are teaching religion, they're teaching tortoise and hare. Now, to hear that doesn't sound right at all, does it? The only reason that is, though, is because of the emotional attachment that we have to one of those genres of stories over the other. One of them we know is a fantasy. The other one, we want it to be real. At any rate, as I go through the material, and I've learned how to find that pattern, that template, and to locate it, and how to play out the analogs in the psyche, that I've been able to determine what from antiquity actually contains that template and what doesn't. What are just fantastical stories. So I want to go ahead and let's just take a look at something. And I am using the translation Lost Scriptures that comes from Bart D. Ehrman. That's just what I have on hand. This is available from other sources as well. And I'm going to start with Vision 1, and I'm going to be looking for common things that I'm familiar with in other works. The one who raised me sold me to a certain woman named Rhoda in Rome. After many years, I regained her acquaintance and began to love her as a sister. When some time had passed, I saw her bathing in the Tiber River, and I gave her my hand to help her out of the river. When I observed her beauty, I began reasoning in my heart. I would be fortunate to have a wife of such beauty and character. This is all I had in mind, nothing else. This is very familiar. Let's grab a couple of examples, and I'm going to show you how and why. Remembering this is going to play out in the psyche. This is not a real world thing. This is a story that is about something internally, but written in a way to be carried in analogous outward-looking terms for the masses. Let's find out what's inside. The material, if you're not familiar with it, has a lot of new parts to it, perhaps, but I'm going to just kind of jump into it. So if it sounds pretty unfamiliar, I have a lot of videos up on how this is going to work. First of all, we're going to look at male and female here being conscious and subconscious. They might look at it and refer to it in their time as mind, carnal mind, and soul, spirit. We know that there is conscious choices we're making, and then when our consciousness is not involved in making our choices and we're walking down the road to Damascus all day long, that we got there without thinking about it. We were on autopilot, something else. We're thinking about one thing while we're doing other things. We begin at some point to realize there's a couple of parts of us. There's not just one part of us. And that's what we're seeing happen, the conscious, when we first emerge in life, that's all we have. And that as life goes on, as a few years go by and we learn and we develop our brain enough, we begin to develop that other part of us that has memories and joys and our capacity to experience emotions and whatnot. That is our female side. So we've got our consciousness that makes decisions, but the female side that retains and holds those decisions. And then when we're not paying attention, that acts them out. We're going to see that emerge. I want to be very careful here and encourage if you're hearing this for the first time, to bear in mind that it is not a female or a male part of you, that they're using those as analogous terms, as a hierarchy that they're seeing in life, that each one of us has a male part. Our conscious is male and our subconscious is female. That doesn't mean male and female. That means conscious and subconscious being held in an analog that is for the masses. So don't get caught up with the male and female thing like, ooh, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's just a way to designate different parts of our being. And male and female is only one way to do it. That's just an analog in this culture. Not everybody does it. But think about this in reality, in the spiritual world, not in the physical world. It is the reason that the male is in charge, the husband, his wife, is in charge of the wife. It's because the consciousness tells the subconscious what to do. And very specifically, what that means as we go along and decode the entire body of work is what it means is that as we're moving along in life and having experiences and judging those experiences with an emotional sensation, that we're storing them away that way, unresolved. And at some point in time in teaching, those are going to be called offspring, good and bad offspring, characteristics that emerge that are bad, weeds in the garden, things of that nature. All of these are analogs for what is emerging from our life experience. And this creation is about us. And then, when we're not paying attention, the subconscious is what acts out and hurts us. That's why it is the wife that is acting out or being evil. That's it. They're analogs. We can't treat them like they're real. We hurt people. All right, having said that, let's go back and read Vision 1 again right at the beginning. The one who raised me sold me to a certain woman named Rhoda in Rome. After many years, I regained her acquaintance and began to love her as a sister. So this is you, and after many years you regained acquaintance, you begin to become aware of this other portion of you. When some time had passed, I saw her bathing in the Tiber River, and I gave her my hand to help her out of the river. When I observed her beauty, I began reasoning in my heart, so she's naked. I think we can imply she was naked. I would be fortunate to have a wife of such beauty and character. This is all I had in mind and nothing else. What I'm going to do, though, is make comparisons. I'm going to go to two places. I'm going to start right in the beginning of, well, the Babylonian creation myth. The Enuma Elish is the oldest creation myth that we have a really good record of. And I'm going to start there because it emerges there. And then I'm going to go into Genesis, the creation story right up front. This same place is very easy to pick out in both of those works. So let's start with the Enuma Elish. Tablet 1. At a time when the glories above had yet to be named, and unuttered was the word for the world which lay beneath. It was then that the first being Apsu, who was their source, and the progenitor Tiamat, the mother who gave birth to all, intermingled their waters, producing neither field nor marsh. Remember, this is playing out in our psyche. If you can imagine this, we're starting out in the existence coming from anything. Glories, things above in below had yet to be named. We have not become separated yet. This is about the creation of us. The first being Apsu, the source. That's our consciousness in the beginning. And the progenitor Tiamat, I don't know what that would be, experience. Intermingled their waters, producing neither field nor marsh. We hadn't learned anything yet, neither field nor marsh. We hadn't named physical things. At a time when no divine beings had yet come into existence. The divine beings are the concepts that we have that are going to act out. That's going to emerge later. I will just tell you right now that that's what they mean right here, that the divine beings, when we're living life and something emerges from us, and later you go, oh my God, what was that? I lost control. They're calling those divine beings. It doesn't mean that they're good beings. It means that they are so powerful that they have control when they come out. So those had not been happened. We are still in a very pure state. The divine beings have not yet come into existence. No names had yet to be spoken and no fates pronounced. We have not yet wired our brain. We're not set up for anything. But the gods were given birth within those intermingling waves. The first were Lamu and Lahamu. That's the first time we see a male and a female name right there. The first were Lamu and Lahamu. Their names were spoken. It's not exactly the same correlation, but my name is Daniel, and there's a feminine version of it, Danielle. So this would be like Daniel and Danielle. However, again, those are analogs. This is simply saying that the male and female portions are now emergent, coexisting, which again means a time in your life, development-wise, where you are complete, you're aware, you know what's going on, but there's no sin, there's no hurt, there's no pain, there's no shame, we're still just little kids having fun. But once they had fully grown and become mature of form, they were born Anshar and Kishar, and they outshone them. So what this means, when we're first Lamu and Lahamu, that is a part of who and what we are when we are still pure, when our pure form. Later, as we learn and experience and we begin to have judgments. We begin to experience things that are hurtful, that are not dealt with. We begin to pick up pain, shame, hurt, anger, judgments as we grow older in life. That's Anshar and Kishar. That's a different part of us that's going to outshine us. This is not really outshine in a good way. These are analogs. They're going to be more powerful than our earlier self. Our pure younger self is going to cease to exist while our older selves begin to act out. But at this point of Allah, Mu and Lahamu, their names were spoken. The first, right there, is where we are in life, where we are still, we're ready to experience life and we haven't yet been hurt. Okay, let's move on to Genesis. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. This is more elaborate. It has more pieces to it. It's more parts. It's a storytelling culture. It's a richer version. And it covers more detail, where in the Enuma Elish, it basically says before anything was created. And in this case, it's giving it actually 7 steps. And there's 2 versions of creation as well. So this one stretches out farther, but it provides more details as well. But the part that we're looking for very specifically, all of the other things have already happened. All right, I'm going to jump right down to verse 20. The man gave names to all cattle and to all the birds of the air and to every animal of the field. But for the man there was found not a helper. So here the man just named everything. Here is where in the story the consciousness developed the capacity to become aware. And what happens next? We have Eve emerge from our rib, that we have a partner that we now coexist with. And we're both naked in the garden and not ashamed. Do you see that? There's the 2 of us in there, me and my subconscious. Naked means we don't have anything covering us. We don't have any shame. We don't have to hide anything. From a physical perspective, that doesn't really make sense. From a spiritual perspective, you rotate that as an analog. Clothing, garment, naked means I don't have anything covering my soul. Remember, these are spiritual verses, living verse. I don't have anything covering me. Okay, let's take every bit of that and go right back to the very first one again, where again, I'm here taking a look at how the Shepherd of Hermas seems to be written to see if it contains anything. And I'm just analyzing it in the same way that I analyze the other ones. I'm not doing anything different with it. I'm making sure that they all have the same psychological verbal process treatment. Play it out, mirror it in your psyche, shift analogs. That's it. The analogs are all over the place. The one who raised me sold me to a certain woman named Rhoda in Rome. After many years, I regained her acquaintance and began to love her as a sister. So this sounds like a Roman right here that's got it and is using this material, or is using this template in a Christian manner as well, but not quite as Christian as maybe what Christianity has become. When time had passed, I saw her bathing in the Tiber River, and I gave her my hand to help her out of the river. The river, that sounds like signifying coming out of the waters of life, the ocean. Everything comes out of waters and rivers, and life emerges from there. So he's pulling her out of the river and sees her nakedness, or, well, he sees her beauty, but we presume if she's washing, bathing, she's naked. He's obviously looking at her with beauty and character, however, nothing else. He's not looking at her in any sexual way. And you know what, if I slow down and think about it here for a second, bathing is also washing off dirt, washing off filth, washing off sin. Bathing would be another good analog for taking your clothes off or pulling weeds out of the garden or something like that. Bathing in the spiritual world would be akin to, cleaning oneself. In fact, that's exactly what those big, huge flood stories are. When they occur, it's time to go purge out everything that's bad inside. Of course, in the spiritual world, that means cleaning ourselves of all of the things that we have accumulated that's creating our life of hurt, and that is making it so that life is not so fun. We're not living in the graces of God. We are not living in the kingdom of heaven within. So here's the idea that I'm looking at myself, helping it out of the emergence of life, and at this point in time it is beautiful and it is naked. There's nothing there covering it. And we get the same teaching in the other material as well. When we play it out in the psyche like that, then all of that outward, maybe this, maybe that, did that place really happen? The Tiber River is there. Is this factual? All of that goes away. There's stories written at that time that contain those elements, but the template is in there. To me, the viability isn't whether or not it's true, it's whether or not it contains that template. That's what I'm looking for. That's what we're looking for, right? What has it and what doesn't have it? What do we study and what do we dismiss as 2,000-year-old comic books? All right, before I act too excited, let's move along and see if that pattern continues. Right off the bat, we see it all starts out with, once it's decoded, it's the emergence of us. Our conscious and our subconscious are there ready to live life in your pure. That's what I'm claiming that I see there. If we move on, it says, when some time had passed, I was traveling to the countryside, glorifying the creations of God and thinking how great, remarkable, and powerful they are. On the way I fell asleep, and a spirit took me and carried me through a certain deserted place that was impassable, for the place was steep and split up by the courses of water. When I crossed the river, I came to level ground and bowed my knees, and I began praying to the Lord and confessing my sins. Okay, first I want to stop and back up right here and say, after I had some time had passed, here we are in life. We're now children. The first part of it, we are happy, naked, everything's okay. We want to live life this way. However, what happens next? Time passes. Traveling through the countryside, glorifying the creations of God. We got to be careful. The religious material is packaged this way. These are analogous terms. And to understand this, it is incumbent upon us to figure every bit of it out. Creation and God, all of that comes from, it comes from a frame of thinking. We need to extract ourselves from that. The creation of God, that is what we are creating. That is our life. That is our choice. We create our life. We're traveling through the countryside, glorifying our own creations and thinking how great and remarkable and powerful they are. We're living our lives just having fun. That's all this is saying. We're not living as Christians glorifying God. If we are, we would look at this and say, this doesn't make sense to me. I can't use it. Once you turn it inward, it becomes usable and interactive. It's carrying the template. You can extract the template from this material. You cannot extract this material from the template. You can build the material to carry the template. The template is always the bottom line, what we're looking for in here. God and his creations are analogous to us and our creations in this material. And we're glorifying it. We're not doing anything different in life. This is the time in our life before we decide, I'm going to change my life. I don't like my life. I don't like where it's gone. I think I have other alternatives. I've hit rock bottom. Somehow, somewhere, some way we decide to go on some kind of a search. This material kicks in. And I see this doing the same thing right here. It's telling us the same thing. We came about as, start out simple, now we're living life. What happens on the way? I fell asleep and a spirit took me and carried me through a certain deserted place that was impassable. So we're struggling in life, for the place was steep and split up by the courses of water. It's jumbled all over the place. Then I crossed the river. There's a threshold right there. We're going through the doorway, going through a tomb, going across a river, going through clashing rocks, through an open sea. When I crossed the river, I came to level ground and bowed my knees, and I began praying to the Lord and confessing my sins. Sins are analogs again. Those are what is hurting inside of us. In other parts of, or in other teachings, they will have things in here like raucous people. There's been too big of a population. They're sinning, not paying attention, or perhaps there are weeds that need to be pulled out of the garden, or creatures, ogres, hydras. This is the place where the representation of the sins, this is actually our bad stuff inside. This is, this is the massive stuff that we don't like, we don't want to deal with, and that makes us hurt. We're not awake to it. While I was praying, the sky opened up and I saw a woman I had desired addressing me from heaven. So this is our soul inside of us still someplace. This is who we desire to have our life with. And heaven, whether it's an analog, whether it's being told to us much in plain language that the kingdom of heaven within, or just heaven, that means nirvana. It's a state of mental being, a mental state of, having a good, happy, generally high quality life. If you're interested in looking at Joseph Campbell's version of the hero's journey, you will see somewhere this reconnection with the goddess or something like that. There's a point in here where we are reconnecting with our inner being. We want to have a marriage in other teachings. At any rate, that's what we're seeing right here. We are seeing now that we are looking at our subconscious, our self. Hermas, greeting. I looked at her and said, "Lady, what are you doing here?" And she replied to me, "I have been taken up to accuse your sins before the Lord." Well, I said to her, "So now you are accusing me?" "No," she said, "but listen to what I have to say to you. The God who dwells in heaven, and for whose sake of his holy church created, increased, and multiplied that which exists out of that which does not exist, is angry at you for sinning against me." I answered her, "Have I sinned against you? In what way? When did I speak an inappropriate word to you? Have I not always thought of you as a goddess? Have I not always respected you as a sister? Why do you make such evil and foul accusations against me, O woman?" Okay, and before starting the video, of course, I jumped ahead and looked at this stuff and had a pretty idea of what I was going to do, and I'm just going to jump and say, already we kind of have some, I know it's going to be coming right up ahead, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So here's what's going to be happening. In Judaism, in the Abrahamic, all of the Abrahamic traditions, what we have is the husband marries the wife and they have offspring. And that's the way this is taught on the inside. And that they can be divorced and you want to have a remarriage in the bridal chamber later on in Jesus' teachings. All of these are going to be analogous for that mental to spiritual connection that we're trying to make. But that what happens to us in life is that before we're aware of it, we live life consciously and we store away emotional memories, hurt memories, good memories, shameful memories, many different memories, and they become a part of who and what we are. And those are considered offspring, and they could be good offspring or bad offspring. And typically the bad wins at first. We start out life difficult. That is how Abrahamic traditions teach that. This doesn't follow that. In this case, there is the male that has sinned against the woman, and the woman has to go talk to the higher self and say, "Hey, somebody gave me this. I can't help it. I am what I am." The style is different. The teaching is the same because it is the conscious thinking that at the time it happened, you can have two events happen. One person is like, oh, yay, that was fun. Another person, oh, I hate that. I'll never do it again. And it ruins their life. It's a mental process. So again, what we do is we just place these in the psyche, but we do it where they fit. They're in a hierarchy. We don't make the conscious the female that is controlling the male. That might be something. These are society things that we have to think about, that we have to get back thousands of years and be in their culture and understand why they are using those analogous terms in their culture to carry the teaching. We don't have to use them today. They used them 3,500 years ago. But we need to understand what they are is actually about us. Once we do that, we see that these teachings are all the same teaching. There's a template, and there's a variety of ways that are carrying the same teaching. When I look at the Shepherd of Hermas, that bingo, it's rich. It's long. There's a lot to it. But right off the bat, it's following the pattern right along the way. It's definitely nesting the material, but it's nesting it in a vehicle that might not be suitable for the religion. But it still has the right teaching in it, the same way the religion does. Once you strip the religious carrier off of the template. All right, now the letter of Barnabas was another one that was in question, and let's go ahead and pop it up and read it and give it the exact same treatment, nothing different. Let's see what we come up with here. Greetings, sons and daughters, in the name of the Lord who loved us in peace. So great and abundant are the righteous acts of God toward you that I am exceedingly overjoyed, beyond measure, by your blessed and glorious spirits. For you have received such a measure of His grace planted within you, the spiritual gift. Okay, first of all, there is nothing in here at all that sounds like the beginnings, the male, the female, nothing like that. This is pretty much greetings, sons and daughters, in the name of the Lord who loved us in peace. Kind of sounds like a Paul letter more than a teaching. This kind of jumps into you look great. You guys, whatever you have going on is glorious. I commend you. That's what this says so far. And so I share your joy all the more within myself, hoping to be saved. For truly I see that, in your midst, the Spirit has been poured out upon you from the abundance of the Lord's fountain. So amazed have I been by the sight of your face, which I have so desired. I can't see how any of this plays out in the psyche. Nothing jumps at me. And so I share all your joy. More. Yeah, I see that. The Spirit has been poured out upon you. This is external from the Lord's face. Otherwise, greetings, sons and daughters, in the name of the Lord would be qualities and characteristics that are internal to you, not outwardly. This is not a spiritual teaching. This is a religious teaching telling people you are doing wonderful. You're doing the right thing and you look marvelous. And so since I have been persuaded about this and realized that I, who have spoken to you, know many things, since the Lord has traveled along with me in the path of righteousness, I have also felt fully compelled to love you more than my own soul. Right there, bingo, ding, 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 red alert, red alert. I love you more than my own soul. That is very much a religious sacrifice yourself to give to others, but sacrifice yourself. Spiritual teachings never do that. They tell you to take care of yourself. You cannot give to anyone else any more than the quality of what you are. As within, so without. That's red alert right there. What does that say? I have also felt fully compelled to love you more than my own soul. For a great faith and love dwell within you in the hope of His life. I have come to realize that I will be rewarded for serving spirits like yours if I care for you enough to hand over a portion of what I have received. Pay tithes to the church. This is the church taking your salvation from you. And I've got to be careful. You can actually say something like this is, giving what you, portion of what you have received, you're giving over, you're giving to the serving spirits. These are parts inside of you. Yeah, this really doesn't fit with any kind of teaching. And it's too nebulous there. It's not telling you to go through this step or to go through a doorway or to forgive or whatever it takes. It's not doing anything like that. It's just kind of broadly telling you, you're doing good, and I'm going to, there's nothing spiritual. So far, none of the spiritual teaching is here. Let's move on. Okay, and so the letter begins by, there are three firm teachings of the Lord of life: hope, which is the beginning and end of our faith; righteousness, which is the beginning and end of judgment; and love, which is a testament to our joy and gladness and upright deeds. These sound wonderful. These are not the teaching. This is not the template. This is not what anyone teaches. Jesus will say first, right off the bat, blessed are the poor in spirit. The most important thing is to be empty of all of your convictions, to just be free of anything you grasp. That is the most important thing. Then you fill yourself with love, joy, all those things. This right here, the three firm teachings of the church. If you're looking outward and doing these three things and focusing on that, you're not looking inward. You're doing your best to stay focused on living this life right here. So there's benefit to it. If we continue to read through the prophets, the Master has made known to us what has happened and what now is, and he has given us the first fruits of the taste of what is yet to be. And as we see that so fruits, they've used that there. He has given us the first fruits. Fruits are the manifested, whatever the energy is that makes something happen, whenever it emerges in the physical world, that's the fruit right there. Whenever it emerges, whenever it becomes physical, whenever we can interact with it, experience it, observe it, feel it, it is fruited right there. The first fruits of the taste is what is yet to be. So there's something, okay, that sounds okay, but that's pretty shallow. And as we see that each and everything has happened just as he indicated, we should make it a more abundant and exalted offering in awe of him. A bigger offering, yeah. But I will show you a few matters to you, not as a teacher, but as one of your own. You know what? I wouldn't read this one at all. This is absolutely one of those documents that was written by somebody who loves the church and wants the church, and whether it was Barnabas or not, I don't know. But this does not have the template in it. This tells you to be a good Christian. Join the church, and it's wonderful. Everybody will be happy. It's good of you to pay. And that's fine if that works for you. However, if you're looking to find that nested template, it's not in Barnabas. But you know what? It is in the Shepherd of Hermas. Yeah, it's there. Okay, and that template is actually only one way you can find the self-healing teaching. Jesus, Buddha, and Lao Tzu material sequence that way, but it looks a little bit different. It really does. It doesn't show you man and woman marriage, things like that. It's a little more cut to the chase, a little less cryptic. Still cryptic, but not quite as much. And of course, I take that back. Jesus' material does have man and woman, the marriage and the bridal chamber, and all of that is all relative to, when we're at a point in time in life where part of us is acting out and another part of us hates it afterwards. We are not married. We've got something going on that needs to be rectified. And so, yeah, the teaching is actually pretty cut and dry. Anyway, I just wanted to cover that real quick. I thought it was good information to put out. Some of the stuff in here is viable, and some of it, just imagine people back then, like today, writing things, that there's viable stuff, and there's people getting a hold of it thinking they know what's going on, but they really don't. And they're writing things, too, that are based on their heartfelt conviction about what they believe in, not realizing that heartfelt conviction might have been written by somebody very clever that knew how to open a person's heart and get inside. How fun is that? Anyway, all right, hope this was fun, and love one another. I'll see you in the next video.